But yeah, it's pretty straightforward. You should already be good at this. It's the same way you incorporate evidence in your argument essay, right? It's just that the evidence is coming from someone else. So you need to make sure you credit them, and you need to make sure that you still have all the other elements that make an essay in there as well. So we're done. We have discussed every concept you need to know for the free response questions of the AP Language exam. You have all the skills, all the tools now. You may need to continue to practice these skills and tools. You may need to review these videos, and I do encourage you to do that if you're unsure about anything or if you feel like you have forgotten anything. So now what we want to do is actually put this all together, right? We have all the pieces now, but we haven't really practiced putting all the pieces together yet. So let's do that. Let's write an essay for the wind turbine prompt. We're already started here a little bit, right? We've already come up with a thesis statement. We're going to use that thesis statement. For me, I'm going to use the thesis statement that I wrote here. You can use this thesis statement if you want, but I would definitely recommend instead you use the thesis statement that you wrote earlier when I had you write a thesis statement for practice. Use that thesis statement. Use all the skills we've practiced and discussed and talked about, and write an essay. Keep in mind, right, you're trying to be persuasive, you're trying to be argumentative, strong diction and syntax, all that stuff, right? Evidence, commentary, claims, thesis, all the stuff we've talked about. Let's put it all together. So, step one, finish your introductory paragraph. We have our thesis statement. We need the first part now, right? That first part comes from, well, that first part is introducing the topic. I will scroll up to the prompt here. Maybe there's some information here that can help you in this prompt. But go ahead. Finish up your first paragraph, your introduction paragraph, and unpause when you're done. Okay, so like we talked about in, I believe it was lesson 1, the prompt gives us some background information, and we can use that information. So I took a lot of this information right here, and I used that to introduce the topic in my first paragraph. So I wrote, as the world's supply of fossil fuels such as coal, oil, and natural gas continues to deplete, wind energy has been regarded as an intriguing renewable alternative. Wind farms have the potential to help satisfy the world's demand for electricity, yet they remain controversial due to concerns over the negative impact they can have on nearby communities and natural environments. Whether or not to establish a wind farm is a case-by-case decision, and the most important factor that should be considered is the potential farm's proximity to people's homes. Good, simple. 3 sentences, more than enough. I don't know if I would say more than enough, but 3 sentences is perfectly fine. First 2 sentences introduce the topic, right? I talk about wind energy being regarded as an intriguing alternative. Then I go on in the second sentence to talk about how they're controversial. And then in the third sentence, I present my thesis statement. The most important factor is the farm's proximity to people's homes. Yours doesn't have to look exactly like this, but it should follow the same formula, right? Introduce the topic, give some background information, then launch your thesis statement as the last sentence here. All right, step 2. Come up with a claim that supports your thesis. You can use the claim you came up with earlier if you would like, and write a body paragraph based on that claim. Be sure to use evidence from at least one source. Now, your entire essay needs 3 sources at least, right? You could use one source per body paragraph if you would like. You could use multiple sources in a body paragraph if you would like. That's up to you. But no body paragraph should have 0 sources. Even if you have multiple in some of the others, don't write a body paragraph that doesn't use any of the sources. There's no point in doing that because the entire purpose of the essay is to see how well you can incorporate the sources. So all of your body paragraphs should have at least one source used in that. So go ahead, write a body paragraph here. And when you are done, you can give this an unpause. Okay, now I am not going to show you my example body paragraph just yet. I am going to have you write your other body paragraphs first. And the reason for this is I don't want to take any ideas away from you or like influence you or anything like that, right? I don't want you to see my body paragraph and be like, well, now I feel like I can't use that claim because he used that claim. Or on the other hand, I don't want you to feel like, oh, well, I'm just going to copy exactly what he did and that'll be my next body paragraph. So I don't want to influence you either way. So I'm going to have you write your other body paragraphs first before I show you my example. The exception I will give you is if you are not at all confident in the body paragraph you wrote, if you feel like your body paragraph, the first body paragraph that you wrote, you struggled with it and you don't think it's very good and you're kind of unsure of where to go next, skip ahead a little bit in the video. By a little bit, I mean probably like 15 to 20 seconds to the part where I am talking about my example body paragraph. Skip ahead to that. You can look at my example first and then you can go back and write your other two body paragraphs. But if you're not in that situation, if you feel okay, even if you're not fully confident, as long as you feel okay with what you wrote, I would recommend writing your other body paragraphs first before you look at my example. So, step 3, write a second body paragraph based on a second claim. And again, make sure you use at least one source for your evidence. All right, step 4, write a third body paragraph. Now, the third body paragraph can either be another claim that supports your thesis directly, or it can be a claim that supports your thesis by refuting an opposing viewpoint. Opposing viewpoints are interesting because if you want to, and the synthesis essay they're especially interesting, because if you want to address one, you're going to probably use information from a source that goes against you, but then you also need to use information from a source that supports you in order to refute it. So if you're writing about an opposing viewpoint, you're going to want to say, some people think this, right? And then like include a source that says something that goes against you. But you also need to support your argument about why that opposing viewpoint is wrong with evidence from a source that supports what you are saying. So it's a little bit tricky, but if you're up to the challenge, give it a shot. I honestly wouldn't recommend it for this prompt because it's not a black and white prompt, right? Black and white prompts, I think opposing viewpoints work very well. Open-ended prompts like this, I think it's a little harder because it's not like it's either position A or position B, right? There's a whole lot of different options, so it's a little bit trickier. But if you want to give it a shot, go for it. Either way, write your third body paragraph, and you can unpause when you're done, and then I will give you my example. Okay, here's the example body paragraph that I wrote. I only wrote one of them because all body paragraphs should follow, they should be similar in a lot of ways, right? They should contain the same components. So there's no real reason for me to write multiple examples because I'm going to be pointing out the same things. So this is the body paragraph I wrote. If built too close to communities that people inhabit, the sound produced by wind turbines can have negative health effects for those people. So that's my claim. Remember, my thesis is that the most important factor that should be considered is the proximity to people's homes. Then my claim here, if built too close to communities that people inhabit, the sound produced by wind turbines can have negative health effects for those people. Recent studies have shown that living near wind turbines results in less restful sleep, and that, quote, sleep interference gets worse the nearer residents are to turbines. Source C. So there's some evidence. There's my evidence, right? Taken from source C. And then I go into commentary here. Sleep is vital for the human body to function properly, and for people to feel energized, healthy, and happy. The solution is not as simple as wearing earplugs to bed, though. And I'll get to that in a second. That's my commentary, right? Sleep is vital for the human body to function properly and for people to feel energized, healthy, and happy. This commentary connects my evidence about wind turbines interfering with sleep to my claim about wind turbines having negative health effects by explaining that you need sleep to be healthy, right? And if your sleep is disrupted, then you're not healthy. And then I kind of use this next sentence to segue into my next piece of evidence. The solution is not as simple as wearing earplugs to bed, though. Wind turbines generate low-frequency sounds, which are more annoying and more likely to travel through walls and windows than higher-frequency sounds and have been associated with fatigue, sleepiness, irritability, and changes to the physiology of the inner ear, even when they are not perceived by the human ear. Source C. So that's my second piece of evidence there. Then I go into commentary. Therefore, regardless of whether or not people living near wind farms can hear the sound, they are still at risk of health complications, right? And that links my evidence back to my claim. It is not fair for people that already have homes in the area to have to choose between moving elsewhere or being stuck with disrupted sleep, fatigue, irritability, and other negative health effects. Now I am into commentary that links my claim to my thesis, right? That's what these last two sentences do. In order to keep people safe and healthy, proximity to nearby communities should be a major consideration before establishing a wind farm. This links my claim about wind turbines having negative health effects to my thesis, which says that the most important factor is proximity to people's homes. And it does that by saying that we need to consider this in order to keep people healthy. So yeah, textbook example here of a body paragraph. Your body paragraph can be very different from this, or your body paragraphs, I should say, plural, can be very different from this. They can have different claims, different evidence. They could, I mean, if you chose the other position, right, you're going to have a very different body paragraph than this. But it should have the same components. You need a claim. You need evidence from at least one source. You need commentary that connects the evidence to the claim. You need commentary that connects the claim to the thesis. You need strong, specific diction and syntax, right? You want to write in a vivid style. You don't want to repeat the same words over and over again or the same sentence structure over and over again. Rhetorical appeals. I didn't necessarily, I think I used logos in here, but that's probably about it. Maybe a little bit of pathos, dealing with the fact, in order to keep people healthy and stuff like that. But yeah, all of those sorts of things you want to keep in mind. All right, you've written your body paragraphs, you wrote your introduction. Last step, step 5, write a conclusion that reconnects everything to your thesis. You don't want to, kind of directly repeat yourself. You can reuse information for the effect of connecting it back to your thesis, but tie everything up, bring your argument to a unified end, connect everything back to your thesis, unpause when you're done. All right, here's the conclusion that I wrote. Wind farms can be beneficial, but before creating one, the people that live nearby must be taken into account. Wind turbines can cause negative health effects for people that live close to them, ruin the natural landscape, and decrease property value. There is no factor more important than proximity to people's homes, and if the proposed location is too close... Well, I used the wrong "to" there. If the proposed location is too close to residences, the wind farm must not be established. It's short, it's sweet, it's to the point. It's a good conclusion, right? You don't want your conclusion to be more than 3 or 4 sentences. There's no point. You're saying too much if your conclusion is longer than that. But yeah, I have all of my claims, negative health effects, ruin the natural landscape, decrease property value. Those are my claims. I only wrote body paragraphs for one of them, but let's just say those are my 3 claims that I wrote body paragraphs about. I link it back to the thesis, and I explain, kind of why all of it is related to the thesis and why it's so important. And yeah, I start with the topic as well. Pretty simple. Your conclusion should be simple. If your conclusion is too complicated, you're wasting time. That's about all I got. You have just written an essay, a full synthesis essay for the AP language test. You are now capable of writing any essay, any of the 3 essay types for any prompt, because the method or the approach is going to be the same, regardless of what your topic is, regardless of what your prompt is about. If you use all these skills that we've practiced, you will get all the points that you need to get. Yeah, I wish I had some grand parting wisdom here, but I don't. It's all fundamentals, right? It's nothing too specific, too cute. Do all the fundamentals well, and you'll get all the points. So takeaways: use the 4-step method to quickly identify the main idea and position of each source. Choose your position based on the sources. Make sure that the position you choose is relative to what the prompt is asking, right? If the prompt is asking about one thing, you don't want to identify the position about another thing, because that's not going to help you at all. And then when you're coming up with claims, find the evidence first, and then, develop your claims based on the evidence that's available to you. Those are your main synthesis takeaways, in addition to all of the things we've already talked about. Claims, commentary, evidence, all those things that we mentioned in previous lessons. That's all I have for you for the free response questions. You should be pretty much an expert at this point. So, hey, congrats. Look at you go. We have 2 lessons left in this course. Those 2 lessons will focus on the multiple choice questions. So, lesson 5, the next lesson, will talk about the reading questions and the reading passages. I don't know if you remember, we briefly talked about those in lesson 1. Those are more reading comprehension based. And then lesson 6 will talk about the writing passages and the writing questions, and those are more based on like writing style and grammar and things like that. And spoiler alert, a couple of the concepts we've talked about are applicable to the multiple choice section as well. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in the following lessons. But yeah, we are done with free response. Thank you guys for hanging out with me. A little bit of a shorter video here because a lot of this was kind of independent work on your own. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Hope this was helpful. Hope you feel confident on the free response section. Again, feel free to rewatch anything that you need to rewatch. And I will be back for lesson 5 soon.